Lister, we don't have to take this anymore. We don't have to put up with your snidey remarks, your total slobbiness, your socks that set off the sprinkler system.
Finally, we've reached the end of Series 1, and it's a case of double trouble, with us following on from the end of the last episode, with Episode 6, Me Squared. It's an episode with the intriguing premise of what would happen if you could meet yourself and ask that question of one of the most neurotic people in the universe, Rimmer. We also start to see that actually, Lister and Rimmer are grudgingly friends. So as always, let's jump straight into the episode and unpack it all. We have an A plot and a B plot this week, with the A plot revolving around Rimmer and his clone, the B plot being an homage to Citizen Kane and revolves around Rimmer's last words.
5-9.
Gazpacho
Emergency
soup!
announcement.
We follow on from finding Rimmer had tricked Lister into duplicating him from last week, with Rimmer moving out of Lister's quarters and planning on moving in with his clone. This starts our A plot. The entire scene being all about them bashing out how horrendous it was to live with the other. Rimmer saying this about Lister.
Everything you ever did was designed to hold me back and annoy me.
Like what?
Swapping my toothpaste for a tube of contraceptive jelly?
Then Lister replying with this.
I'm talking about playing your self-hypnosis tapes all through the night, learn Esperanto while you sleep.
We both got the same benefit.
Yeah, neither of us got any sleep.
It's another riff on their odd couple dynamic. One that thankfully the rest of the episode spends some time expanding on and clarifying as to just how much Lister and Rimmer do actually care for each other in their own very special subtle way. Firstly, we see that the two Rimmers aren't exactly enjoying each other's company, trying to one-up each other at every step during exercise, sleeping, studying, and even redecorating the halls of Red Dwarf. The Rimmer squared effect was once again achieved via split-screen techniques, with Barry doing one take, then crossing the set and doing another, then splicing them together in post. We also see that Lister, although initially he seems excited by Rimmer's absence, is actually a little bit lonely without him, and ends up competing against himself to see which coloured gum he can blow the biggest bubble with. Hell, he even cleans his socks up. We also get the best Holly scene of the whole series when he pranks Lister by telling him Norweb the electrical company are chasing Lister because
You left a light on in the bathroom. Got a final demand here for £180 billion.
£180 billion? You're kidding?
April Fool.
the way the Tories are going, everyone will owe 180 billion quid a month, so Dave would be getting off lightly if you ask me, for 3 million years of Lecky. Of course, having two Type A Rimmers culminates in them having a massive slanging match, hilariously screaming abuse at each other, with original Rimmer having possibly one of the greatest comebacks ever.
Shut up, you dead git! Stop your foul whining, you filthy piece of distended rectum!
Chris Barry is excellent throughout this series, but I think this episode in particular highlights how good a comedic actor he truly is, with him having both brilliant line delivery with a very understated physical performance that sells the emotional state of his character in an amusing way. As a result of this heated exchange, Rimmer slinks back to Lister and in his usual hilariously understated fashion explains the situation by saying,
Lister, there's no point in concealing it anymore. Rimmer and me, we've had a bit of a tiff.
all of this, of course, results in one of them having to go, with Lister deciding the original Rimmer will be turned off when he eeny meeny miny mows it. Except it's all a cunning trick by Lister to get Rimmer to explain the meaning of his last words, with the mystery surrounding them being the episode's B-plot. It turns out, Rimmer being the most narcissistic smeghead alive, he got Holly to make him a video recounting his moment of death, which Lister discovers and watches, seeing that Rimmer's last words were gazpacho soup, as a snow globe falls off of Captain Hollister's desk. Rimmer's death is of course an obvious homage to the Orson Welles classic Citizen Kane. In the opening scene of that movie, Kane drops a snow globe and the rest of the film focuses on the mystery around his last words being Rosebud. The answer behind Rimmer's last words being that after 14 years of service with the company, he was invited to eat at the captain's table and had sent a bowl of gazpacho soup back for being cold, not realizing it was meant to be cold. This ultimately being one of the most embarrassing incidents in his entire life, which, seeing as this is Rimmer we are talking about, is a fairly high bar to get over. The gazpacho soup incident is actually based on a real event that happened to the writers Grant and Naylor, who narrowly avoided a Rimmer-esque faux pas when they were served the stone cold soup at a meeting with Thames Television, refraining from mentioning anything at the meeting and discovering that gazpacho is meant in fact served cold and possibly not even a soup. Lister had of course already turned the Rimmer clone off and promises Rimmer he will never ever mention the gazpacho soup incident again, with the episode and the series ending with this line:
Let's go for another drink. Super.
I personally think all of the events of this episode, in subtle ways, show how much Lister and Rimmer, even though on the surface they pretend to despise each other, would be lost without the other, and are, as a result, best friends, even if neither would admit it. The cat is once again entirely underutilized, his one joke this episode being that he is courting Lady Cat, even though there are no other cats on board Red Dwarf. He does get this chuckle-worthy line though.
Hey, I'm looking so good today. If I looked any better, I'd be illegal.
I went into these videos with the mindset that I really liked the cat as a character. I can't actually believe how little he is used in this first series, to the point he's essentially relegated to a peripheral figure who gets 1 or 2 scenes each episode and maybe 1 or 2 jokes. This is another episode that wasn't exactly beloved by the readers of the Smegazine, coming in at number 25 out of 30 in the same 1992 poll I mentioned in the Confidence and Paranoia review. For me personally, this would be above The Balance of Power, but below Waiting for God and Confidence and Paranoia, so the second worst episode of this first series. There are a few great jokes and the premise is a fine one, but it never really breaks out into a classic dwarf episode for me. Certainly not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but once again, not a classic, and probably not as great an ending to the series as the original reveal of the 2 Rimmers would have been. Thanks for watching. I plan on continuing these Red Dwarf reviews later in the year, so if you want to catch those, then like, comment and subscribe, you absolute smegheads.